Coming up on Currently, Beth Milligan has the latest on retail and restaurant moves. Plus, we'll get you ready for spring with some public park and environment updates. That's all ahead on Currently. Welcome to Currently, where we discuss some of the top local stories directly from the journalists who are covering them. And I'm your host, Christal Frost. This podcast was recorded on Wednesday, February 25th. The Tigers are in early stages of the Grapefruit League, with opening day coming up on March 26th. And support for Currently comes from West Shore Bank. When you choose West Shore Bank, you're not just choosing a bank, you are choosing a partner committed to the well-being of our community. And you can visit them today on 8th Street or at westshorebank.com. Support also comes from Old Town Playhouse, where community comes together in downtown Traverse City. Welcome, Beth Milligan, head writer for Traverse City Ticker. How are you?
Hi, I'm great. How are you?
I'm doing well. It is my final day of being 46 years old.
Hooray.
I know.
Huzzah.
Huzzah. Huzzah. I could feel the youth draining from me. Literally.
The specter of old age.
It really
creeping.
does feel like there's something about turning 47 that I'm like, oh, girl, you are like, you can see 50.
I think you could still say mid-40s. I would hang on to mid-40s as long as I could.
I mean,
up
eventually.
into my 50s.
Eventually. If I were in like elementary, class for adding and rounding up, I would round up 47 to 50. You know I would. This is what we do.
Yeah.
Well, Beth, we won't talk about the entire, we won't spend everything on my existential crisis. We will go into the news. And we're going to talk about some retail and restaurant news right now. Tell me about what's going on.
Yeah, I know we seemed like we've had these pretty regularly lately, but that's because there's just been a lot going on, a lot happening. So one of the main things that we wrote about in the story, which was on, I think this came out on Monday, the old Mr. C's space out in Williamsburg. Remember Mr. C's?
Yeah.
It's been, that building, it's out on 72 in Williamsburg. It's been empty for several years now.
It's a big building.
It's just been sitting there. It's also a big property. It's about 7 acres, so it's a pretty sizable property. But that is reopening soon as a new restaurant called Coyote Joe's Pub and Grill.
Okay, I already love the name. I love it.
Coyote Joe's. So Coyote Joe's downstate in Shelby Township is a very popular country music nightclub, one of the probably bigger country music nightclubs in the state. They do lots of concerts.
Nice.
They have Nashville artists in. This is going to be a little bit of a different concept, but it is the same owner.
Oh, cool.
So he's bringing that Coyote Joe's name to the new place. This won't be a nightclub, though. This will be, as a pub and grill would indicate, a restaurant. When I talked to Joe, he described it as a pub and grill with fine dining specials. So in other words, he said, this isn't just bar food. Most of what we're going to do is going to have fresh ingredients. So even the things that you would think of like bar food, like the onion rings or the wings, will be like hand-cut onion rings, fresh wings, never frozen, hand-tossed pizzas with their own sauce and dough. And then they will also have a full bar and things that, when they're talking about the fine dining specials, things like fillets, ribs, lamb chops, sandwiches like Reubens and patty melts. So kind of a mix. He said it was a pretty large menu. And also kids menu with some Northwood soda. The other thing I thought was interesting, for that property, given the size of it that we were just talking about, is he's planning to put a pretty large tent outside in the summer. So he said 3,000 to 4,000 square feet. And then hopes, I think maybe similar to maybe he can route some of the artists that he has from downstate up here. But doing live music, he mentioned having something like a Nashville Summer Fest. Oh, nice. He described it, an Oktoberfest. So they're going to be opening soon. Right now they are still in that kind of gray phase where you're getting your final inspections ready to go, but he was hoping for a soft opening in early March. So coming up the next few weeks.
So definitely not a nightclub. Restaurant hours are like 11 to 8, right? And weekends until 9?
Yeah. And that's just for the off season now as they're getting their feet under them, kind of getting up and running. He did say in the summer that they would probably be open later. And I know, there's not a ton. There are some, nice restaurants in the east side of town, but certainly not as much as like downtown or even the west side. So it'll be nice to have another dining option. You've got horseshoes out there in the summer. So
I love it. I think that's great. And to have another, venue for live music is always a good thing.
Yeah, especially when we have one coming to a close this week at Union Street Station.
Very
last
true.
weekend.
Very true. What else is going on?
Yeah. So one of the other parts of the article was we talked about two local companies that are opening second locations in Traverse City. So the first is Ride Leelanau, which right now is out in Sutton's Bay. They're right next to the Bayside Gallery in downtown Sutton's Bay there. And then they are going to be purchasing or are purchasing or coming into, I should say, I don't know if they're leasing or purchasing, but the Classic Consignment Building on West Bay Shore Drive. So they are coming into that space and they will be opening a second location. So they really focus on e-bikes, which are becoming much more popular. So out in Sutton's Bay, they'll have a small fleet of rentals. In the space in Traverse City, they will have a larger fleet. They'll also have a showroom, so they'll be selling e-bikes, not just renting them, and then servicing them, because we're starting to see them become popular now, but there aren't as many service shops for those.
True.
And sometimes in the winter, they need battery maintenance. They need some things that you wouldn't think about with normal bikes, and they'll be offering that.
Because the cold kills the battery, right?
Well, they just need to be kept over time. So they'll be doing storage and stuff. So they're hoping to open that in March 20th is their opening. And then, of course, that location there, they can either have people who are renting bikes go up to Sortons Bay and the Leelanau Trail, or we just rebuilt the Tart Trail there as part of the Grandview Parkway project.
Ride Leelanau, if you would like Beth Milligan and Christal Frost to, just maybe have some e-bikes, I'm all about it.
Well, Lee, the owner who I spoke to, is a very nice guy. He did say I should come in for an e-bike ride. I haven't really ridden on one before, so maybe we'll do a special ride sometime. We can cover that.
I'm big on pedal assist only because I want to pretend like I'm doing something.
Yeah.
Where you're like, I'll get it started, and then
I'm
you
extremely
take it over.
lazy, so I'm into that. Also, for some of those wineries, and it gets a little hilly out there.
It certainly does. You need a little bit of, a little power. I love it. Any other moves going on?
Yeah, the other one I mentioned is QT Boba. So they are over on Division Street in Kids Creek Marketplace. They're opening a second location. They're on Coughlin Street, where Crocodile Palace used to be, across from NMC. So they actually opened this past weekend. And I think, for people who like boba, that's another location. But in this case, in this second location, they're also doing Vietnamese street food.
Nice.
So the owner, George, talked about this as something like he has been wanting to do for a while. So they're going to have, for example, on the weekends only, it takes a long time to make the broth, but they're going to have pho on the weekends. They've got some ramen, spring rolls, things like that. So they're open now over there in that spot.
Here's a little confessions with Christal Frost.
Okay.
I've never had boba.
It's delightful.
Is it?
Yeah.
I was afraid of the little balls.
Well, it depends. I like it. It's a little textural surprise, so it pops in your mouth.
You like that?
Yeah. But you'll have to try it out and see if you like it.
Okay. Maybe we'll try that too on our bike ride.
On a food fight maybe in the future.
We will. I mean, I've heard it's wonderful and delightful, but I just have this I'm just weirded out by it. Do you remember back in the day, like the 90s, 80s, 90s, there was this drink called Orbits.
I kind of remember this.
And they had little tiny boba balls basically in the bottom of it. And I just remember being really freaked out by that too.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Sometimes they have they have different flavors. They can have little flavors inside them, like little juices. So like a gusher kind of thing, where you get a little boop.
I love gushers.
I think give them a try. Try the boba.
I'm going to do it. QT boba. I'm on my way, baby. Anything else? Any other moves we want to talk about?
Well, I think I'll just mention a few rapid fire ones because we had some updates on ones we've covered in the ticker before. So Artemis, which is kind of it's a cool story. It's 4 booksellers who all used to work at Brilliant Books, which we sadly reported had closed on Front Street recently. That was a very beloved bookstore. But the 4 booksellers from there came together and opened a new venture called Artemis. And they just found their new brick and mortar home. So they're going to be inside Warehouse Market. They had a soft opening this past weekend. For now, they're in the process of building out that space. So putting in literally the seating, the shelves and everything. But they're going to be open there on the weekends for right now. So you can go support them. And then in the coming weeks, they're going to be adding more inventory and kind of getting the store up and running. But they are there now in Warehouse Market.
Very cool.
And we also mentioned in Warehouse Market that the Three Pigs, which is a new Korean barbecue restaurant that's going into the former Mammoth Distilling space.
Oh, fantastic.
Next to Workshop.
Yeah.
We checked in with them. They had originally thought they were going to be open by now. So I checked in. They had some, it happens a lot with restaurants, going through some permitting. Getting your liquor license with the state can be sometimes sometimes a bit of a drag. But they are hoping now to be open the first week of April. So they are working towards that opening.
Oh, I'm so excited. I mean, this is the second Korean barbecue place that we're talking about right now. And I love Korean barbecue.
Yeah.
I'm super excited. I will go to all of them.
And then we just mentioned a few ones. Penny Lane had been opening a second. I know you're a Penny Lane fan. They have a second location on 14th Street now next to Crusted Creations. They're officially open there. So that spot's open, same hours as their East Front Street store. We did an update on Lake Ann Brewing Company, which has its new four-season music pavilion that's now finished. Mm-hmm. They're hosting music and live events in there outside year-round with the enclosure, which is nice for the weather. And then we also just checked in with Macy's because people had been asking, what's going on with the Macy's location. So they are at work on that in the in the Grand Traverse Mall, in that old space in the Grand Traverse Mall. They are splitting that space up into 3 or 4 spots. Some of the tenants are expected to open next year and some in 2028. So we still don't know the names of the tenants, but we did talk, I know we talked on the show before here too, that they had mentioned like a gourmet food store, a bookstore, and some apparel brands. So we'll see what's happening, but folks have been wondering if there was movement there, and there is. So
exciting.
Yeah.
Exciting happening. At the old Macy's. It'll always be the old Macy's to me. Absolutely.
The ghost of the Macy's.
Oh, gosh. The ghost of the Macy's is very well dressed. I will tell you that, with lots of good luggage. We're going to come back and talk a little bit about some environmental and park news, right? We're kind of doing an outside segment, if you will.
I love an outside segment.
Love an outside segment. But right now, a word for our lead supporter, West Shore Bank. And Traverse City friends, I mean, oh my gosh. Can you even believe that we're talking about spring break? And dare I say, summer is just around the corner. And so is summer vacation. So between travel activities and new gear and all those little extras, I mean, that can add up, right? That's some money we're talking about. That's why I want to tell you something I genuinely love from West Shore Bank. It's called the Savings Center, and it is a game changer. Right inside the WSB Touch app, you can set up a dedicated savings goal just for spring break or for summer vacation or for whatever you want. You can schedule your automatic transfers. You can round up your everyday purchases so you're saving without even thinking about it. It's easy. It's painless. It's very much my vibe. And it is perfect for families or students or anyone who wants to stay ahead of those getaway expenses without the stress, right? And of course, you're working with a local bank, okay? You're working with people who live here, who understand Northern Michigan life. It's not a giant call center. It is West Shore Bank right around the corner, right? It has branches right here with real people who are always ready to help. So before spring break or summer break or any of those breaks sneak up on you, get your plan in place. Download the WSB Touch app right now. Check out the Savings Center today. And West Shore Bank is saving made simple. Products and services may require enrollment. Other terms, conditions, and fees may apply. All right, getting back to the hyper-local news with Beth Milligan, head writer for the Traverse City Ticker. Let's go outside.
Yeah, so we have a couple outdoor kind of related stories this week I wanted to share with folks. The first of which is our story that ran Thursday in the Ticker. Mm-hmm. This is about kind of some park updates. So one is East Creek Reserve, which is a property. It's a large property, about 560 acres, out in Mayfield, just south of Traverse City. And the Grand Traverse Conservation District has taken care of this property for many years, over 2 decades, on behalf of Rotary Camps and Services, which owns the land. And that's common. The Conservation District helps with a lot of natural properties in our area as kind of stewards and management. And the announcement that came out Wednesday about this was that Rotary is gifting that property to the Conservation District. So they have donated that land. Dan Rickard, who's the chair for Rotary Camps and Services, talked about how they've done such a good job for the last 2 years. That they said when we were looking at who could and should take care of the property for future generations, it made perfect sense for us to gift the property to them.
Oh, wow.
So the Conservation District, the property transfer has happened. They are the new owners of that land. And for folks who use that property, it has over 3 miles of public trails on it. That's going to continue. It'll be, for the public just the same as it is today.
Right.
Except for the fact that there might be some improvements in the future. So the Conservation District is planning to create a new management plan for the property. And they did mention the possibility when I spoke with them about new trails and access points there.
Oh, cool.
So just a nice story about a property coming to the conservation district.
And I bet they were just like tickled to have the property now, right? They've already been taking care of it.
Yeah, it's a Kofi. When I spoke to him, the ED for the conservation district, he said this is really a gift from Rotary to the community. So we know it'll be in perpetuity now.
That's wonderful. What about Hickory Hills?
Yeah, lots happening with Hickory Hills. So one of the main things that I think parents might be excited about is that the conservation district is also involved with this, but they are partnering with the city of Traverse City to hopefully bring summer day camp back to Hickory Hills.
Every parent who is listening or watching right now just stopped what they were doing.
Like, day camp?
They were like, what?
Day camp?
Childcare?
Because this is a recurring story that we do in the Ticker every year about the camps that are coming up in summer and Craig usually writes those and he does a great job of trying to round up as many of the options as he can for folks because it is like the Hunger Games to get into summer day camp, especially like the Y or some of the really popular ones. But there's lots of different kinds of day camps from Norte to the Conservation District. This is another one that would come. So the Conservation District right now already runs a nature day camp at the Boardman River Nature Center. They have about 40 to 50 kids a week all summer there. This would be a second location, so a second camp with the city of Traverse City at Hickory Hills. And Hickory had a summer camp for many years, and it stopped in 2022 because of staffing shortages. They were just not getting enough applicants for running the camp. They even had increased the salary. It just wasn't happening at the time.
Wow.
So they stopped. I think they feel like now, with me talking to the Conservation District and also Benjamin Marentet, the city manager, that this partnership with the Conservation District might be a way to bring this program back. Benjamin mentioned, obviously, not only do they have a great property for it at Hickory Hills. They've got a lodge for indoor activities. They've got nature to explore on the property there for the kids. But also, the city just recently adopted a strategic plan. And one of the things in that plan was trying to increase more childcare options in the community. So Ben was pointing out that, this is a great way to meet one of our goals in our strategic plan. They have city employees who need childcare as well, who might get some of the slots for the camp. So right now it's on the agenda to go to city commissioners on March 16th just to review and make sure everyone's good with it. And then they're working on finalizing their licensing with the state. So we don't have an exact date of when registration will begin right now, but I would keep an eye out if you're interested in that camp on the Conservation District or city website for some time, I would think, in the coming weeks before summer for that registration to open.
And do you have an idea of what the price
I
might
do,
be?
yeah. So they're similar to the other Conservation District camp. They're hoping to have about 40-ish slots per week. So they run like one camp per week. So if you only need your kid in there for part of the summer, you don't have to commit to all summer long.
That's nice.
It'll be Monday through Thursday at Hickory Hills, and that allows them to have the weekends for their wedding rentals at Hickory Hills, which is a really profitable revenue stream for the summer that is hard to let go of. It helps keep the park going. But they will have it Monday through Thursday. And the cost right now, Benjamin said, is probably going to be in the $425 to $450 a week range.
Okay.
Which is pretty reasonable for what camp rates I've seen in the area.
Yeah.
Childcare is not inexpensive. The Conservation District's existing camp is $425, so it's in the same neighborhood as that.
It's expensive. It's expensive to have kids, though, isn't it?
It is, and I can tell you, daycare is not much better. In fact, it's usually worse. So that's something that's potentially coming. And we mentioned, too, in the story with Hickory, just because this is such a popular property with a lot going on, just a couple other quick updates. The Hickory Hills Advisory Committee is meeting this week. They're talking about things for Hickory ranging from some potential, what look like pretty modest rate increases for next year for the ski season, but just a little bit of a bump in that. They're still looking at developing mountain bike trails on the property. And then coming up in 2027 is going to be the park's 75th anniversary. So they're looking at an anniversary celebration next year for Hickory Hills.
That's really exciting.
At the park, yeah. So lots going on with that.
Kind of digging that. I know you had a couple of other stories that we wanted to, like environmental stories that were from your your sister publication, the Northern Express, and there's a story about goats, which we have to talk about. Let's do that.
I think for our friend Erin, we've got to talk about the goats because she works for the Grand Traverse Regional Land Conservancy, and my coworker Ross wrote this story. It came out this past weekend in the Ticker, but it was all about the goats of the Land Conservancy, and goats are the best. And what we have found is that they are very good at helping manage invasive species.
Yes,
they love to eat things that we don't want around as humans. This includes things like poison ivy, but also in this story, we talk about a lot of invasive plants that are on properties that the Conservancy manages.
Right.
Autumn olive is a great example of a very fast-spreading, really tenacious invasive plant that takes over landscapes. It's really hard to get out. It's got hard roots.
Yeah.
Goats love it.
Yeah.
They love to eat it. The great thing about goats is they will eat it to the ground. They also can get into spaces that are tight for equipment to get in. They don't have the same carbon footprint as trucks, that are idling or like heavy equipment.
No.
They can just get in there. They just sit around chewing on grass all day.
Goats to me are chaos in fuzzy pajamas. They are they're my favorite animal, hands down.
Okay.
They're the absolute best. They're unapologetically themselves. They don't people please. They just climb onto things and yell. And I love it.
Yeah.
I want to be like that.
They're very stubborn. They do their own thing. And the Conservancy actually has 2 herds of them now. So they have one out in Misty Acres in Benzie County, and the other is at the Mitchell Creek Meadows, the Conservancy's headquarters on 3 Mile Road. And people know, I sometimes go hiking at that headquarters property. It's really beautiful over there. And sometimes you can just hang out and you see the goats.
Yeah.
The kids love them.
I would love for the Conservancy to do do they have cameras set up or anything so we know when the goats are around?
We should ask Erin about that.
That would be cool.
They're usually, they're kept in barns on the property, so they're around year round. They tend to be out more, obviously, when the weather is nicer. But I recommend it. If you want it, first of all, the property is very family friendly for hiking.
Yes.
It's flat, has ADA accessibility in some parts, so it's a nice, easy hike around the property. It's got some cool interest points. But if your kids like goats, and who doesn't?
Who doesn't?
It's really fun to go see
My
them.
favorite thing in the fair, the Northwestern Michigan Fair, is that you can run with the goats.
Yeah.
People don't always know this. They think I'm crazy. No, it's true.
It does sound made up.
I know. The 4-Hers take their goats into the main area, that big arena, and they run them every night at 8:00. It's a thing that happens. Mm-hmm. So if you, as me, middle-aged woman, get there, I can run with the goats. And it's a real thing. And I've done it so many times. And I honestly think it's my favorite thing in the world to do.
I think we need some video of that.
We do.
Year.
I think we have some video of that.
I don't know if I'm going to run, and running's not my forte, but maybe I could casually joke. I could just be there standing still as they run past me.
Yes, exactly. It is honestly, because kids will run with the goats. Obviously the kids that are taking care of the goats run with them too. But they've let me do it. And I mean, I'm just that weird old lady that's just let me run. And it's so amazing.
I want to see that.
You have to see it. I love it. Anything else that we want to talk about outside?
Yeah, you know what? The last thing I'll just plug is the Northern Express issue that came out this past weekend, which is on northernexpress.com. You can always find any of our issues for free on there, including past ones. But that had a big focus this week on environmental issues, the big environmental issues of 2026. And so Carl Clockers, who wrote that article, talked with 4 local nonprofits that work in environmental work. So FLOW, the Conservation Resource Alliance, the Citizen Climate Lobby, and the Northern Michigan Environmental Action Council. That's that one. NEMIAC is a little bit of a tongue twister there.
NEMIAC?
NEMIAC. That's an easy way to say it. NEMIAC, the Northern Michigan Environmental Action Council.
Love it.
Yeah, but they talked about some of the key things they're working on in 2026, changes that could impact Northern Michigan, projects that they're monitoring the state and federal level. We have everything from Line 5 in front of the Supreme Court right now to things like microplastics. We have data centers we talked about in the show last week, PFAS. There's just a lot that could happen, including the election, of a new governor coming down the road who could shape the priorities for the state. So a lot of great deep dives into environmental work that's in that issue this week.
That's great. And you can pick it up free on newsstands too.
You can. It's all over Northern Michigan.
It's all over the place.
Yeah.
Love that. Well, I mean, it's been this is rapid fire news day.
Yeah, I love it.
Feels like it. Hyper local. That's what we do best. What are you up to this week that you're excited about?
Yeah, well, I'll plug, something at the Bay Theater out in Suns Bay where I'm on the board out there. This coming Sunday is the start of our Made in Michigan series.
Yeah.
So we do this every year. We've had, we've been involved before because our partner's film, Marquee Town, was in there before. That was before I came out to the Bay. And so that was my first glimpse into this world.
Oh, wow.
But now, being on the board, it's really fun to see these series. So every spring, the Bay does a series of films that are made in the state of Michigan. And ideally, most of the time, we have the filmmakers or special guests there so the audience can ask them questions and get the behind the scenes. So there's a couple coming up in March and April. But the first one is this coming Sunday. It's at 4:00, and it's called The Spirit of Sleeping Bear Dunes, which obviously is a good fit for our area. So Keith Patterson, the filmmaker, is going to be there. We have the trailer on the Bay social media page if people want to check it out, or go to baytheater.org. But it's really kind of a love letter to Sleeping Bear.
Aww.
So there's a lot of great visuals in it of the park. It kind of talks about some of the history of the park. It talks about the Anishinaabe connection, what modern day conservationists are doing. And Keith is donating a lot of his share of the proceeds from the screening to one of the Preserve Sleeping Bear nonprofits.
Cool.
So
very
it's
cool.
Great. Yeah,
that sounds fantastic. I'm just excited about my birthday.
That's girl. Are you excited though, or are you like, is it a mix? Like you're excited to celebrate, but not excited to be 47?
I'm excited to celebrate, and I mean, I will tell you, I think I'm getting to the point where I'm like, well, I'm 47, and that's a gift, right? Not everybody can make it to 47, and that's a good thing.
Mm-hmm.
But a lot of the things that come with birthdays or celebrations with friends and with family, and my grandkids are coming, so I get to have a little grandkid time with my little babies. Who do not think I'm old. I asked Nolan, do you think I'm old? And he said no.
Yeah.
And I was like, cool. All right. You and I
Sometimes
can hang out.
Yeah, because you check in a couple of years and all of a sudden they'll just be like, the kids will just say the coldest things.
Yeah.
To you.
And
they're just like,
the most realistic things.
Yeah, they're
too.
True. But they're just like, aren't you 100? And you're like, oh, okay.
You're like, yes, I am. Actually, I feel like it. Also, our friend group is going to get together at Stella for the finale of Restaurant Week. And to celebrate my birthday. So I'm excited about that.
I'm very excited about
Me
that.
too. Well, Beth, thank you again for another great episode of Currently News Roundup. I want to remind you to subscribe to the show on all the platforms. You can do that very easily at crystalfrost.com. It'll have everything listed there: Facebook, YouTube, Instagram, like the whole thing. And then, of course, subscribe on your favorite podcast app. You can follow us on social media. And you can, again, subscribe wherever you get your podcasts. You can also watch the full show on YouTube and on Facebook. Currently is a Compass local podcast produced in Traverse City, Michigan by Pancake Boy Productions. Big thanks to Old Town Playhouse. Paint Night is kicking off at the Schmuckel Theater on March 13th. This looks like a really good, I actually read this play. It's very fun. You can get your tickets at oldtownplayhouse.com for that. Special thanks to our lead supporter, West Shore Bank. Start saving today at westshorebank.com, and we'll see you next week.